"Call me when the will is announced. I'll take my millions," wrote the daughter-in-law, who did not attend her son's funeral because she was vacationing with her new boyfriend in Hawaii. At the ceremony, a woman in a white dress handed over an envelope. "She'll pay for this." He opened it and almost fainted. Inside. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The phone screamed into the darkness at 3:17 in the morning. I fumbled for it, knocking over the water glass on my nightstand. The screen burned my eyes. Unknown number. My thumb hovered over the decline button. Nobody calls at this hour with good news. Nobody. I answered anyway. "Mr. Carter, this is Officer Reynolds with Oregon State Police." The voice was young, rehearsed, apologetic in that professional way that means they've delivered this speech before. "I'm calling about your son, Martin Carter." The rain tapped against my bedroom window, steady, methodical, like a clock counting down. "There's been an accident on I-5, southbound near mile marker 43. A semi crossed the median. Your son's vehicle was struck head-on." A pause. Too long. "I'm very sorry, Mr. Carter, but he didn't survive the impact." I didn't cry. Couldn't. My body went cold instead, like someone had opened all the windows in March and let Portland's chill pour through. I stared at the ceiling, at the water stain, shaped like Illinois that I kept meaning to fix. "Mr. Carter, are you still there?" "Yes." "We need you to come to the medical examiner's office for identification. I can give you the address." "I know where it is." 30 years practicing family law in this city. I'd sent clients there before. Never imagined I'd go for my own son. The officer gave me details I barely registered. Forms, procedures, next steps. When the call ended, I sat in the darkness, phone still pressed against my ear, listening to nothing. Martin. My only child. The boy who'd asked me to teach him to shave when he was 12 because his mother wasn't there anymore to tell him when it was time. The young man who called every Sunday at exactly 6, even when he was exhausted from his engineering projects, because he knew I waited for those calls. Dead on I-5 because a truck driver fell asleep. My first coherent thought, Tara needs to know. I pulled up her contact, my daughter-in-law for 3 years now, though I'd never quite warmed to her. Something about the way she smiled at Martin while calculating something behind her eyes. But she was his wife. She deserved to hear this from family, not from police. I called. It rang 6 times, then voicemail. Her voice bright and cheerful. "This is Tara. Leave a message and I'll get back to you." I hung up, tried again. Same result. A 3rd time, voicemail again. I paced my bedroom, phone clenched in my fist, watching the minutes crawl past on the alarm clock. 4 o'clock, 4:15, 4:30. At 5:07, my phone vibrated. A text message. "Virgil, I'm busy. What happened?" I read it 3 times. Busy. At 5 in the morning. My fingers felt thick and clumsy on the screen as I typed, "Martin was in an accident. He didn't make it. I'm so sorry." The 3 dots appeared immediately. She was typing. I held my breath, expecting shock, questions, grief, anything human. The response loaded. "Call me when the will is read and I'll collect my millions. I can't come right now." I sat down on the edge of my bed, read the message again and again. Not, "What happened?" Not, "Where is he?" Not, "I'm coming home." Just millions. Something cold and sharp twisted in my chest. I opened my laptop with shaking hands, typed her name into the social media search bar. Her profile loaded, public, unguarded, careless. The most recent post, uploaded 2 hours ago, a photo. Tara on a beach at sunset, tropical drink in hand, smiling like she'd just won something. The caption read, "Paradise found," with a palm tree emoji. Location tag, Maui, Hawaii. And beside her in the photo, a man, not Martin. Younger, tan, shirtless, his arm wrapped around her waist possessively. I scrolled down, another photo from yesterday. The same man kissing her cheek. The comments underneath, "You two are adorable." Relationship goals. Lucky guy. Martin had been dead for less than 4 hours. I closed the laptop slowly. My hands had stopped shaking. That cold, sharp thing in my chest wasn't twisting anymore. It was settling into something solid, something I recognized from 3 decades of courtroom battles. I reopened my laptop and started a new search. Oregon inheritance law spousal rights, then contesting a will on grounds of fraud, then proving marriage entered under false pretenses. The funeral arrangements could wait another hour. I had work to do. I pulled out a legal pad, old habit from my practicing days, and began taking notes. Oregon was a community property state with certain exceptions. Spousal inheritance rights were strong, but not absolute. If I could prove Tara had married Martin for financial gain, if I could demonstrate fraud or abandonment. My pen moved across the page, filling it with case names I remembered, statutes I'd used before, strategies I'd deployed in divorce proceedings. The attorney in me, dormant since my retirement 5 years ago, was waking up. Martin's face flickered through my mind, not as he probably looked now, broken and cold in some morgue drawer, but as he'd been 2 Sundays ago on our call, laughing about a problem at work, asking if I wanted to drive out to the coast with him next month. Tara's text glowed on my phone screen beside me. I'll collect my millions. Not my husband, not Martin, just millions. The rain had stopped. Dawn light crept gray and weak through my window. I looked down at my legal pad, at the notes I'd been scribbling for the past hour. At the top of the page, I'd written one sentence and underlined it twice. She will not profit from his death. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts. I needed a funeral director, someone discreet, and I needed to locate Martin's will. He'd mentioned updating it last year, but I didn't know the details. But most of all, I needed to understand exactly what Tara was expecting to inherit, because whatever it was, she wasn't going to get it. The days between Martin's death and the funeral blurred together like watercolors in rain. I made calls, I signed papers at the medical examiner's office, at the funeral home, at Martin's bank. I arranged everything alone. The morning of the funeral arrived gray and cold. I stood in Morrison Chapel's anteroom, adjusting my tie in the mirror. The suit hung loose on my frame. I'd dropped weight I couldn't afford to lose. My reflection looked older than 63, looked hollowed out. Through the doorway, I could see the casket, closed as I'd requested. Martin's face after the accident wasn't something I wanted people to remember. Better they kept the living version in their minds. People began arriving around 10, colleagues from his engineering firm walking in with stiff shoulders and uncomfortable expressions. Friends from college I'd met once or twice. Neighbors from the apartment complex where he and Tara lived. They approached me one by one, a receiving line of grief. Handshakes, awkward hugs, platitudes that all sounded the same. He was so young. Such a terrible tragedy. If there's anything we can do. And then, inevitably, where's Tara? Shouldn't she be here? I'd prepared my answer, rehearsed it a dozen times in front of the bathroom mirror. She's not feeling well. She wanted to be here, but she couldn't make it. The lie tasted like copper. But what else could I say? That my daughter-in-law was in Hawaii with her boyfriend, posting vacation photos while Martin lay in a box. The whispers started before the service even began. I heard them as more guests arrived, fragments of conversation that people thought I couldn't hear. Did you see her social media, still posting beach photos? Martin's not even buried and Someone told me she refused to come back from Hawaii. Is that true? I said nothing. Let them whisper. Let them judge. The truth would come out eventually, but not here. Not today. The service began at 11. The pastor spoke in that generic, sympathetic tone they use when they're eulogizing someone they never actually knew. I barely listened. I was scanning the crowd instead, noting who'd cared enough to show up. That's when I saw her. A woman standing at the very back of the chapel, half hidden behind a column. She wore a white dress, inappropriate for a funeral, but somehow it didn't feel disrespectful. She was crying, and not the polite dabbing eyes with tissue kind of crying the other guests were doing. Her shoulders shook, her hand pressed against her mouth like she was trying to hold something back. I didn't recognize her. She was younger, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair pulled into a low ponytail, and her grief looked real, raw, devastating. Who was she? The pastor concluded his remarks. People filed past the casket, leaving flowers, touching the polished wood, murmuring final goodbyes. I stood beside it like a statue, shaking hands, accepting condolences I'd forget within minutes. When the crowd thinned, I looked for the woman in white. She was still there, hovering near the exit like she couldn't decide whether to leave or stay. Finally, she walked toward me. Up close, I could see her red-rimmed eyes, the tremor in her hands. She was clutching a white envelope, holding it like it might dissolve if she loosened her grip. She stopped a few feet away. "Mr. Carter?" I nodded. "My name is Sarah." Her voice cracked. She swallowed hard. "Sarah Nelson. I knew Martin." The way she said "knew" made my chest tighten. There was intimacy in that word, something more than friendship. She extended the envelope toward me. "Martin wanted you to have this. He wanted you to know the truth about her." She didn't say Tara's name, didn't need to. I took the envelope. It was thick, heavy with whatever it contained. "What is this?" Sarah's eyes met mine. They were filled with grief, yes, but also something else, something colder. Evidence, proof, everything you need to make sure she doesn't get away with it. Get away with what? With pretending she loved him, with taking everything he worked for, with celebrating while he's... Her voice broke. She couldn't finish. I stared at the envelope, then back at her. "Who are you? How did you know my son?" Her expression softened just slightly. "I loved him, and he loved me. We were going to be together. He was planning to leave her, but he ran out of time." The confession hung between us. I should have felt shocked, maybe angry. Instead, I felt recognition. This woman's grief was genuine. Unlike Tara's cold calculation, unlike the polite sympathy of strangers, Sarah's pain was real. Why give this to me? Because Martin said if anything ever happened to him, you were the only one he could trust. He said you'd know what to do. She stepped back. "Read what's in there, and then make her pay for what she did to him." "Wait." I reached out, but Sarah was already turning away. "I can't stay. I'm sorry. Everything you need is in that envelope. Make her pay, Mr. Carter, please." She walked quickly toward the exit, disappearing through the chapel doors before I could ask anything else. I stood alone beside Martin's casket, holding the envelope. Around me, the remaining guests were filtering out, offering final condolences that I barely registered. I looked down at the envelope, unmarked, sealed, heavy. Sarah's words echoed, "Make her pay." Tara's text message from 6 days ago flashed through my mind. "I'll collect my millions." The photos on social media, Tara laughing, drinking, kissing another man, while my son's body was being identified at the morgue. Sarah's tears. The only genuine grief I'd witnessed since the phone call that shattered my life. My fingers tightened around the envelope. The funeral director approached. "Mr. Carter, we're ready to proceed to the cemetery whenever you are. I'll follow in my car." I walked out into the cold March air. My car sat in the parking lot, waiting. I got in, closed the door, and for a moment, just sat there breathing. Then I pulled the envelope from my jacket pocket, held it, stared at it. Not yet. I'd open it at home, when I was alone, when I could process whatever truth Martin had wanted me to know. I started the engine and followed the hearse carrying my son's body toward the cemetery. But in my mind, I was already moving forward, not just toward burial, toward justice. The drive home from the cemetery felt endless. Cars passed, streetlights blinked. I gripped the steering wheel with one hand, the envelope pressing against my chest through my jacket. I didn't remember the route, didn't remember parking. One moment I was following the hearse. The next, I was standing in my driveway, key in hand. My house looked different. The Craftsman I'd bought 40 years ago, where I'd raised Martin after his mother died, where Martin and Tara had moved in 2 years ago because Martin said it made financial sense, that they could help me maintain the place. Now I understood. They moved in to establish residency, to stake their claim. I unlocked the front door. Martin's shoes still sat by the entrance. His jacket hung on the coat rack. Everything frozen, waiting for someone who would never return. I didn't turn on lights. The gray afternoon provided enough illumination. I walked to my study, the one room Tara never entered, never tried to redecorate or claim. I sat at my desk and set the envelope down. For several minutes, I didn't move. Once I opened this, once I saw what was inside, there was no going back. Ignorance offered a strange comfort. I could throw it away, never know what Martin wanted me to see. But Sarah's words echoed, "Make her pay." And Tara's text burned in my memory. "I'll collect my millions." I tore the envelope open. The first items I pulled out were photographs. I spread them across my desk. Tara and a man, Bradley presumably, at a restaurant. Intimate. Her hand on his arm, his lips near her ear. The metadata printed on the bottom. 2 years ago. Before Martin and Tara even got engaged. More photos. Tara and Bradley entering a hotel together. Timestamp. 3 months ago. Another. Tara and Bradley on a beach. The same beach from her social media, Hawaii. My hand steadied as I examined each photo. I'd seen evidence like this before in divorce cases. Proof of infidelity, documentation of betrayal. But this was my son's wife, my son's life. Next came printed text message transcripts. I read them methodically. Tara. 3 years is almost up. Then I'm free and clear with everything. Bradley. And the old man, Martin's dad? Tara. He's not a problem. He's too soft. Once Martin's gone, the house is mine, and we can do whatever we want. I stopped, read that line again. Once Martin's gone. The conversation was dated 6 months ago, 6 months before the accident. I forced myself to continue. Bradley, what if Martin doesn't leave you everything? Tara, he will. I made sure of it. He thinks I love him. Pathetic. Tara, his father is the real prize, though. That old house is worth at least $800,000, plus whatever else Martin inherits. A flash drive fell from the envelope. I inserted it into my laptop, clicked the first audio file. Tara's voice filled my study. Martin actually thinks this is a real marriage. Can you believe it? I signed a contract, Bradley, a contract. $50,000 up front, 3 years of playing housewife, and then I walk away with everything. Bradley's laugh crackled through the speakers. You're brilliant. Tara. He's so desperate for someone to love him. His mother died when he was young. His father's been alone forever. Martin just wanted to feel normal. So, I gave him normal. For a price. More recordings. Hours of them. Tara mocking Martin's habits, his work, his attempts to make her happy. Tara and Bradley planning their future. Trips, houses, everything funded by Martin's money. I listened to 3 files before I had to stop. My hands were shaking, but not with grief, with rage. The next document made my chest tighten. Private marriage agreement between Martin Carter and Tara Mitchell, dated July 15th, 2022. Notarized. Signed. I read slowly, my attorney's mind cataloging every clause. Tara agrees to marry Martin Carter and remain married for a minimum of 3 years. Martin agrees to pay Tara $50,000 upon marriage. Tara agrees to perform all duties expected of a spouse, including cohabitation and public appearances. Upon completion of 3 years, Tara receives full spousal rights to all marital property. If divorce occurs before 3 years, Tara receives $400,000. If Martin dies before 3 years, standard inheritance laws apply. My son bought a wife, paid $50,000 for someone to pretend to love him. The worst part, Martin knew. He signed this contract knowing Tara didn't love him, knowing she was with him for money. Why would Martin do this? One more document remained, a handwritten letter on Martin's stationery addressed to Sarah, dated 1 week before his death. Sarah, I'm done pretending. I'm done living a lie. I signed that contract with Tara 3 years ago because I was tired of being alone, tired of failed relationships, tired of trying. I thought if I could just have someone there, someone who looked like a wife, it would be enough. I was wrong. Meeting you showed me what real connection feels like. You didn't want my money. You didn't care about my house or my father's property. You just wanted me. I'm filing for divorce in April. My attorney says the contract can be challenged. Fraudulent inducement, lack of genuine consent. It will be messy, expensive. Tara will fight for every dollar. But I don't care anymore. I love you. Not because I paid you to stay, because I can't imagine leaving. Martin. I read the letter 3 times. Each time my vision of my son shifted. Martin wasn't a victim. He was desperate, yes. Lonely, yes. But he made a choice, a bad choice, and he was trying to fix it. I organized the evidence across my desk. Photos, messages, audio files, contract, letter. This was what Sarah meant. This was the truth Martin wanted me to know. Tara didn't love Martin. She never loved Martin. She married him for money, counted down the days until she could cash out, and celebrated when he died because it meant she got everything without the hassle of divorce. But she made a mistake. She assumed I was weak, ignorant, too grief-stricken to fight. She was wrong. I picked up my phone and photographed every document. I copied the flash drive, stored the backup in my safe. Then I opened my laptop and began typing notes. I wasn't grieving anymore. Grief is passive. Grief is acceptance. This was clarity. Cold, precise, focused clarity. I spent 30 years as a civil attorney. I specialized in family law, divorce cases, estate disputes. I knew exactly what this evidence meant. I knew exactly how to use it. Tara wants millions, she'll get nothing. Bradley wants to live in Martin's house, he'll be lucky if he's not in jail. Sarah loved my son. Sarah deserves what Martin promised her, and I will make sure justice is served. I closed my laptop. Outside, afternoon had faded to evening. I'd been sitting here for hours, reviewing evidence, making notes, building a case. My phone rang, unknown number. I answered. Yes? A woman's voice, cold and familiar. Virgil? It's Tara. I'm landing in Portland tomorrow morning. We need to discuss Martin's estate. I'll be at the house by noon. Make sure you're there. She hung up before I could respond. I set the phone down. I looked at the evidence spread across my desk. Proof of everything Tara is, everything she's done. She's coming tomorrow. Good. Let her come. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my study, reviewing the evidence again and again. By sunrise, I had memorized every photo, every message, every clause in that contract. When morning came, I showered, dressed, and waited. Tara said noon. It was 11:30 when I heard the car pull into the driveway. I positioned myself in the living room, standing near the window where I could see outside. Not sitting, standing, not waiting passively, observing actively. A black SUV parked in the driveway, rental plates. Tara emerged from the passenger side, designer sunglasses, fitted jacket, heels clicking on pavement. She looked like she was returning from vacation, not from burying her husband. The driver's side door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, mid-30s, expensive watch, confident stride. Bradley. They didn't look like people in mourning. They looked like people moving in. Bradley opened the trunk, pulled out 2 large suitcases. Tara walked ahead, not helping, not looking back. She reached the front door and tried the handle. Locked. She knocked. 3 sharp raps. I waited, counted to 5, then opened the door. Tara removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were dry, clear, cold. No tears, no grief, not even pretense. Virgil. Not a greeting, a statement, an acknowledgement of an obstacle. Tara! I didn't move from the doorway. She gestured behind her. This is Bradley, my friend. He's helping me with the transition. Bradley nodded, didn't offer his hand. He was already looking past me into the house, assessing, calculating. Transition? I asked. Moving in, properly, now that... She paused, chose her words carefully. Now that Martin is gone, I need to establish myself here. Get access to his accounts, his documents. The lawyer said the will reading is in a week, but I need to start organizing things now. You weren't at the funeral. Tara's expression didn't change. I was dealing with grief in my own way. Everyone processes differently. You were in Hawaii. A flicker of something, annoyance, crossed her face. I needed space. I needed to clear my head. Martin would have understood. Would he? The question hung between us. Tara's eyes narrowed slightly, but she recovered quickly. Can we come in? Or are you going to make me stand on the porch of my own house? I stepped aside, not because I wanted to, but because legally I had to. Until the will was read, until the estate was settled, Tara had some rights as Martin's spouse. I knew this. She knew this. But what she didn't know was what I knew. Tara entered, Bradley following with the suitcases. She looked around the living room, Martin's space, the home he grew up in, and I could see her mentally redecorating, erasing, claiming. Bradley set the suitcases down and immediately sat on the couch. He grabbed the remote control, turned on the television. No asking permission, no acknowledgement of whose house this was. Tara turned to me. I'll need the keys to Martin's bedroom and his office. I assume you've kept everything locked? His bedroom is upstairs, second door on the right. It's not locked. And his office? He didn't have a separate office. He used the study, where I work. Tara's jaw tightened. Then I'll need access to the study. I need to review his files, his accounts, make sure everything is in order. Everything is in order. I'd like to verify that myself. I met her eyes. 30 years as an attorney taught me how to read people. Tara wasn't grieving. She wasn't even pretending anymore. She was here for one thing: money. The will reading is scheduled for next week, I said calmly. Until then, nothing is distributed, nothing is accessible, nothing is yours. Tara's composure cracked slightly. I'm his wife. I have rights. His widow, I corrected. And yes, you do. Limited rights until the estate is settled. Are you seriously going to fight me on this? Her voice rose, the cold facade slipping. Martin left everything to me. The house, the savings, the insurance policy. Everything. You know that. Do I? His will is clear. I saw it when he signed it. Everything goes to his spouse. Wills can be challenged. Tara laughed, sharp, dismissive. On what grounds? You're his father, sure, but legally, I'm his next of kin. I'm his primary beneficiary. You have no standing. Bradley spoke from the couch, not looking away from the television. Just give her the keys, old man. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I turned slowly to face Bradley. This is my house. You're a guest. Act like one. Bradley finally looked at me, smirked. Not for long. Once Tara inherits, this place is hers. Technically, you're the guest. Tara pulled out her phone, typed something, then looked up at me. I'm giving you a choice. You can cooperate, make this transition smooth, and continue living here in the guest room. Or you can fight me, lose, and end up with nothing. Nothing? I asked quietly. Martin's will is ironclad. I checked with a lawyer before I even came back to Portland. Spousal inheritance in Oregon is straightforward. You have no claim. Unless the marriage is contested. Tara's expression froze. What? If the marriage is proven to be fraudulent, entered into under false pretenses, with no genuine intent to form a marital bond, it can be annulled, even posthumously. For the first time, Tara looked uncertain. You don't have grounds for that. Martin and I were married for 3 years. We lived together. Everyone saw us as a couple. Appearances aren't reality. You're grasping. You're angry and grieving, and you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking very clearly. Tara stepped closer, her voice dropping to something colder, sharper. Listen carefully, old man. Don't try to fight me. You won't win. I have lawyers. I have documentation. I have every legal right to everything Martin owned. You have grief and desperation. Those don't hold up in court. I held her gaze. Inside, I was thinking about the evidence upstairs in my study. The photos, the messages, the contract, the audio recordings. Everything Sarah gave me. Everything Tara doesn't know I have. But I didn't mention it. Not yet. The will reading is April 1st, I said evenly. 1 week. Until then, this house remains as it is. You can stay in Martin's room. Your friend can stay in the guest room downstairs. But you don't touch Martin's documents. You don't access his accounts. You don't change anything. Is that clear? Tara studied me, trying to read me, trying to see if I was bluffing. Finally, she nodded. Fine, 1 week. But after that, this place is mine, and you'll have to leave. She brushed past me, heading for the stairs. Bradley grabbed one suitcase and followed her. I stood alone in the living room. Above me, I heard footsteps, doors opening, Tara claiming space that wasn't yet hers. I walked to the window, looked out at the driveway, at the rental SUV that brought them here. Bradley said it. Once Tara inherits, this place is hers. But Tara isn't going to inherit, because I have proof that the marriage was a fraud, and in Oregon, fraudulent marriages can be annulled, even after death, which means Tara isn't Martin's widow. She's nothing. She just doesn't know it yet. I heard Tara's voice from upstairs, talking on her phone. Yes, everything is proceeding as planned. 1 week and it's all mine. No, he's not going to be a problem. He's just a sad old man. He won't fight. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, listening. She's wrong. I will fight, and I will win. I turned toward my study. I had work to do. Phone calls to make, documents to organize, a case to build. The war has begun. 3 days passed in tense silence. Tara and Bradley moved through my house like they owned it, rearranging furniture, hosting phone calls with lawyers, planning their future in rooms that still smelled like my son. I avoided them. I had more important work to do. The contact information Sarah left in the envelope included a phone number. I called it the morning of the third day. I left the house early, before Tara and Bradley woke. I drove across Portland to Powell's Books on Burnside Street, the massive independent bookstore with its attached cafe. Public enough to be safe, quiet enough for private conversation. Neutral territory where neither Tara nor Bradley would think to look. I arrived 15 minutes early. The cafe occupied a corner of the bookstore, tucked between shelves of poetry and philosophy. Morning light filtered through tall windows. A few customers read newspapers, sipped coffee. Nobody paid attention to a gray-haired man sitting alone at a corner table. I ordered black coffee, didn't drink it, just held the cup, watching the entrance. At exactly 10 o'clock, Sarah walked in. She looked different than at the funeral. No white dress, no obvious grief. She wore jeans, a simple sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. But her eyes still carried that weight, that loss. She saw me, hesitated, then approached. "Mr. Carter." "Virgil, please." She sat across from me, set her purse on the empty chair beside her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The cafe noise filled the silence. Espresso machines hissing, conversations murmuring, pages turning. "Thank you for meeting me," I said finally. Sarah nodded. "Thank you for calling. I wasn't sure if you would. After the funeral, after I just appeared like that and left, I thought maybe you'd think I was unstable or lying or—" I opened the envelope. Sarah's eyes met mine. "Then you know." "I know what was in it. I don't know the full story. That's why I'm here." Sarah took a breath, steadying herself. "How much do you want to know?" "Everything?" She began slowly, choosing her words carefully. "I'm a nurse at Legacy Emmanuel Hospital. 2 years ago, March 2023. Martin came in with a back injury, herniated disc. He'd been lifting boxes, moving furniture. Nothing serious, but painful. I was assigned to his post-procedure care." She paused, traced the edge of her coffee cup with one finger. "We talked. He was there overnight for observation, and I was working the night shift. He told me about his work, his father, his house. He seemed lonely. Not lonely like he had no one. Lonely like he had people but still felt alone. Do you know what I mean?" I nodded. I knew exactly what she meant. I'd felt it myself. We started talking more. He'd call the hospital with questions about his recovery, but really, we were just talking. Then he asked if I wanted to get coffee. I said yes. "When did you learn about Tara?" I asked. Sarah's expression darkened. "Second date. He was honest about being married, but he said the marriage wasn't real, that it was an arrangement. I didn't believe him at first. I thought he was just another married man making excuses." "What changed your mind?" He showed me the contract. "Martin kept a copy in his car," Sarah continued. "The actual signed agreement between him and Tara. He showed it to me because he didn't want me to think he was lying. He wanted me to understand what his marriage was." "Why did he sign that contract in the first place?" I asked the question that had haunted me since reading the document. Sarah's voice softened. "He said he was tired of dating apps and failed relationships and people wanting him for what he had instead of who he was. Tara approached him at a charity event. She was beautiful, charming, interested. They dated for 3 months, and then she proposed the arrangement. A 3-year marriage. She'd be a perfect wife in public. He'd have companionship, someone to attend events with, someone to fill the house. After 3 years, they'd quietly divorce. She'd take her settlement, and both would move on. And he agreed? He was desperate, not for love, for normalcy. He thought if he could just have someone there, someone who looked like a partner, it would be enough. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. He was wrong. We fell in love, Sarah said simply. Real love, not contractual, not transactional, just real. Martin wanted to end things with Tara immediately, but the prenup complicated everything. If he divorced her before the 3 years were up, she'd get $400,000. He didn't have that kind of liquid cash. His wealth was tied up in the house, in investments, in retirement accounts. So he waited, he planned, he hired an attorney, quietly, without telling Tara. He gathered evidence that the marriage was fraudulent from the start, that she never intended to fulfill the emotional obligations of marriage. He documented her affairs with Bradley, her financial manipulations. He was building a case to annul the marriage entirely, which would void the prenup. Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Martin gave me these to keep safe. He said if anything happened to him before he could file for divorce, I should give them to you. She slid the folder across the table. I opened it. Inside, email correspondence between Martin and an attorney named David Chen, dated over the past 6 months. The subject lines told the story: marriage annulment grounds, evidence collection strategy, prenuptial agreement review. There was also a document labeled Draft Last Will and Testament, unsigned. I scanned it quickly. In this version, Martin left everything to Sarah Nelson: the house, his savings, his life insurance policy, everything. He never signed this? I asked. Sarah shook her head. He was waiting until the divorce was filed. He didn't want Tara to find out and accelerate her plans. He thought he had time. The week before he died, Sarah said quietly, Martin told me he was filing in April, right after the 3-year mark. He said once the contract terms were technically fulfilled, Tara would have less legal leverage. He was going to serve her with annulment papers, present all the evidence, and offer her a choice: accept a small settlement and leave quietly, or fight in court and risk getting nothing. Did Tara know he was planning this? I don't know. Martin was careful, but Tara's smart. She might have suspected something. Sarah's hands trembled slightly. When I heard about the accident, I wondered if it was really an accident. The words hung between us. I'd wondered the same thing, late at night, when the house was quiet and dark thoughts crept in. But the police report was clear. Single vehicle accident, wet roads, excessive speed, no evidence of foul play. The police said, I began. I know what they said. I read the report. Sarah wiped her eyes quickly. I'm not saying Tara killed him. I'm saying the timing is convenient, 3 weeks before he was going to destroy her entire plan. I closed the folder, looked at Sarah directly. Why did you give me this evidence? You could have taken it to a lawyer yourself, contested the will on your own behalf. Because I'm not family. I have no legal standing. You do. You're his father. You have rights that I don't. But Martin wanted you to have the house. What Martin wanted and what the law recognizes are different things. I know that. I'm a realist. Sarah's voice steadied. I don't need the house or the money. I just need Tara to not get it. That woman destroyed Martin's life, mocked him, used him, and now she's celebrating his death. If you can stop her, if you can take away everything she's been scheming for, that's enough for me. I studied her face. She was telling the truth. She loved Martin. Real love, not purchased love, and now she wanted justice, not profit. I'm contesting the will, I said. The evidence you gave me, combined with what you've provided today, it's enough to challenge the marriage's validity. If I can prove the marriage was fraudulent, Tara loses her spousal inheritance rights. Can you win? Yes. It won't be easy. Tara will fight. She has her own lawyers. But Oregon law is clear. Fraudulent marriages can be annulled posthumously if sufficient evidence exists. And we have sufficient evidence. Sarah exhaled, something loosening in her shoulders. Then do it. Make her pay for what she did to him. We sat in silence for a moment. Around us, the cafe continued its rhythm. People ordered coffee, turned pages, lived ordinary lives. But Sarah and I were planning a war. The will reading is in 4 days, I said. I'll file the annulment petition immediately afterward. It will take time, months probably. The court will need to review evidence, hear testimonies, but we'll win. Sarah nodded. What do you need from me? Your testimony. When the time comes, you'll need to testify about your relationship with Martin, about the contract, about everything he told you. I'll do it. I gathered the folder, prepared to leave. Sarah stopped me with a question. Virgil, did Martin ever talk to you about me? No, I admitted. He kept you secret. I wish he hadn't. He was protecting me, from Tara, from complications. Sarah's smile was sad. He was always protecting people, even when he shouldn't have. I stood, extended my hand. Sarah took it. Thank you, I said, for loving my son, for telling me the truth. Thank you for fighting for him. We left the cafe separately. I walked to my car, the folder tucked under my arm. Inside it, the weapons I needed, the proof that would destroy Tara's claim. 4 days until the will reading. 4 days until the first strike. I drove home, already planning my next move. The 4 days between my meeting with Sarah and the will reading passed in a blur of preparation. I organized every piece of evidence, created digital backups, consulted with my old colleagues about Oregon annulment law. Tara and Bradley remained in the house, growing more confident with each passing day. They didn't know what was coming. The morning of April first arrived cold and overcast. I dressed in my courtroom suit, the one I wore for every important case during my career. If this was war, I would dress for battle. The office of Richard Gonzalez, Notary Public, occupied a professional building in downtown Portland. The office was small but formal, dark wood furniture, certificates on the walls, a conference table surrounded by leather chairs. This is where legal matters were finalized, where estates were divided, where futures were determined. I arrived first, 10 minutes early. I sat in the waiting area, a leather folder on my lap containing copies of all my evidence. I didn't need it for the will reading itself, but I wanted it close, a reminder of what comes next. Richard Gonzalez greeted me, a man in his 50s, professional demeanor, sympathetic eyes. "Mr. Carter, thank you for coming. I'm very sorry for your loss." "Thank you?" "We're waiting for the other parties. Mrs. Carter called to say she's running a few minutes late." Mrs. Carter? The title sounded wrong. Tara was never truly Martin's wife, not in any way that mattered. I waited. At precisely 10 o'clock, the door opened. Tara entered first, dressed impeccably. Black suit, minimal jewelry, appropriate morning attire. But her expression betrayed no grief. She was all business. Behind her, Bradley, wearing a suit that didn't quite fit, looking bored and impatient. And behind them, a man I didn't recognize. Late 40s, expensive briefcase, calculating eyes. Tara's attorney. Tara's gaze slid over me dismissively. She didn't greet me. She simply took a seat at the conference table, Bradley beside her, the attorney on her other side. Gonzalez waited a moment, then began. "Thank you all for being here. We're gathered to read the last will and testament of Martin James Carter, dated June 15th, 2023. Let's proceed." Gonzalez opened a folder, extracted the document, and began reading in a measured, professional tone. "I, Martin James Carter, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament." The legal preamble continued. I listened, watching Tara's face. She was barely paying attention to the words, already knowing what they said. Gonzalez reached the substance. "To my wife, Tara Mitchell Carter, I leave the following. My primary residence located at 4521 SE Woodstock Boulevard, Portland, Oregon, currently valued at approximately $850,000. All savings and investment accounts in my name, totaling approximately $320,000. And all proceeds from my life insurance policy with Pacific Life Insurance Company, valued at $500,000. Tara's lips curved into a small, satisfied smile. Gonzalez continued, "To my father, Virgil Edward Carter, I leave my personal effects, including my book collection, my watch collection, and my vehicle, a 2022 Toyota Camry. That was it. Books, watches, and a car. Everything else went to Tara." The attorney beside Tara leaned back, confident. Bradley smirked. Tara didn't even try to hide her triumph. Gonzalez concluded, "This will was witnessed and notarized according to Oregon state law. Unless contested within the statutory period, these distributions will be executed as stated." Silence filled the room. The reading was over. I stood. Everyone looked at me. Gonzalez appeared concerned. Tara's smile faded slightly. "I contest this will," I said clearly. Tara's attorney spoke first. "On what grounds?" "The will is properly executed, witnessed, and clear in its intent." "I'm not contesting the will's validity. I'm contesting Mrs. Carter's eligibility to inherit under it." Tara leaned forward. "What are you talking about?" I opened my folder, removed a document, and placed it on the table. "I have evidence that the marriage between Martin Carter and Tara Mitchell was fraudulent from its inception. The marriage was entered into based on a financial contract, not genuine marital intent. Under Oregon Revised Statute 106.110, a marriage that lacks genuine consent or is entered into for purposes other than establishing a bona fide marital relationship can be annulled." Tara's attorney picked up the document, a copy of the marriage contract between Martin and Tara. He scanned it, his expression shifting from confident to concerned. "Where did you get this?" Tara demanded, her voice sharp. "That's irrelevant. What's relevant is its authenticity. This document, signed by both you and Martin, clearly establishes that your marriage was a 3-year contractual arrangement with predetermined financial terms. You agreed to marry Martin for $50,000 up front, and the promise of substantial compensation upon completion of the contract period. Tara's face paled. That was a joke, a stupid document we signed when we were dating. It doesn't mean anything. Then why is it notarized? Silence. I continued, my voice steady, drawing on 30 years of courtroom experience. I also have bank records showing the $50,000 payment from Martin to you 1 week before your wedding. I have text messages between you and your boyfriend, Bradley Lawrence, discussing your plan to complete the 3 years and collect everything. I have audio recordings of you mocking Martin, referring to the marriage as a business transaction. And I have testimony from witnesses who can verify that you never intended to form a genuine marital relationship. Tara's attorney recovered quickly. This is absurd. Mrs. Carter and Martin were married for 3 years. They lived together, presented themselves as a married couple, fulfilled all the public requirements of marriage. Whatever private arrangements they had don't negate the legal validity of the marriage. They do if the marriage was fraudulent from the beginning. Oregon law allows for posthumous annulment when clear evidence shows the marriage lacked genuine consent or was entered into for fraudulent purposes. I'm filing a petition with Multnomah County Circuit Court to annul the marriage retroactively. If successful, Tara Mitchell will have no legal standing as Martin's widow, and therefore no inheritance rights under the will. Gonzalez looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. Mr. Carter, this is highly irregular. Posthumous annulment cases are extremely rare, but not impossible, and I have sufficient evidence to support the petition. Tara stood abruptly. You can't do this. The will is clear. I'm his wife. You're entitled to nothing if you were never legally his wife in the eyes of the law. Bradley spoke up, his voice aggressive. This is ridiculous. You're just a bitter old man who can't accept that your son chose his wife over you. I turned to Bradley, my voice cold. You have no standing in these proceedings. I suggest you remain silent. Tara's attorney intervened. Mr. Carter, even if you file this petition, it will take months to resolve. In the meantime, Mrs. Carter has immediate rights as the named beneficiary in the will. She can access accounts, make decisions about the property. Not if the court issues a temporary injunction preserving the estate pending resolution of the annulment petition, which I'm also filing today. I removed a second set of papers from my folder. These are copies of the petition I'm submitting to the court this afternoon. The originals will be filed within the hour. I'm requesting an emergency hearing to freeze all estate assets until the marriage's validity can be determined. I slid copies across the table to Gonzalez and to Tara's attorney. Both men read quickly, their expressions grave. Tara's attorney set the papers down. This is aggressive legal action based on questionable evidence. We'll fight this. Mrs. Carter has every right to her inheritance. Then we'll see what the court decides. Tara's voice rose, control slipping. You're doing this because you're jealous, because Martin chose me, loved me, wanted me to have everything. You can't accept that. I met her eyes. Martin didn't love you. You didn't love him. You both knew exactly what your marriage was, a transaction. And now that transaction is being audited. Tara grabbed her purse, stood. This isn't over. My attorney will file counter motions. We'll prove the marriage was legitimate. You'll end up with nothing, just like Martin wanted. Martin wanted justice. I'm making sure he gets it. Tara stormed out, Bradley following. Her attorney gathered his papers, gave me a measured look. You're making a mistake, Mr. Carter. Even if some of this evidence is admissible, posthumous annulment is nearly impossible to achieve. The burden of proof is enormous. I'm aware. I spent 30 years as a civil attorney. I know exactly what I'm facing. The attorney nodded curtly and left. Alone with Gonzalez, I felt the adrenaline fading, replaced by exhaustion. Gonzalez spoke carefully. Mr. Carter, I have to ask, is this evidence legitimate? Every document is authentic. Every recording is unaltered. Every witness is credible. Then you might actually have a case. Gonzalez paused. But this will get ugly, very ugly. I know. Mrs. Carter will fight back, hard. I'm counting on it. I left the office, walked to my car. The folder under my arm felt lighter now. The first strike had been delivered. Tara knew I was serious. She knew I had evidence. She knew this wouldn't be the easy victory she anticipated. My phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Yes? Mr. Carter, this is David Chen, attorney at law. Sarah Nelson gave me your contact information. She said you might need legal representation for an annulment case. I smiled grimly. I do. Can you come to my office this afternoon? We have a lot to discuss. I'll be there in an hour. I ended the call, started the car. The war had officially begun, and I was ready. After filing the annulment petition, I met with David Chen for 3 hours. He reviewed my evidence, asked pointed questions, and ultimately agreed to serve as my counsel. This is winnable, he said, but it will be brutal. I was ready for brutal. 2 weeks passed. The court scheduled a preliminary hearing for mid-May. In the meantime, Tara was preparing her counterattack. My house no longer felt like home. Since the will reading, the atmosphere had shifted. Tara had transformed from reluctant guest to conquering occupant. She and Bradley moved through the space with increasing ownership, making changes, asserting control, pushing boundaries. It was late afternoon, mid-April. I sat in my study, the only room I could still lock from the inside. Outside, I heard voices, laughter, music, the clink of glasses. Tara was hosting something, again. A knock on my door, not a request, a demand. Virgil, open up, we need to talk. Not Tara's voice, male, professional, authoritative. I opened the door. A man stood there, late 40s, sharp suit, briefcase in hand, predatory smile. Behind him, Tara, arms crossed, expression triumphant. Mr. Carter, I'm Robert Morrison, Mrs. Carter's attorney. We have documents for you. Morrison didn't wait for an invitation. He stepped into my study, set his briefcase on my desk, and extracted a thick envelope. These are counter petitions filed with Multnomah County Circuit Court this morning. I'm required to serve you with copies. I took the envelope, opened it. Inside, multiple legal documents, stamped and official. I read the titles: Motion to Dismiss Annulment Petition, Counterclaim for Declaratory Judgment, Emergency Motion for Exclusive Occupancy. Exclusive occupancy? I looked up. Morrison's smile widened. Mrs. Carter is requesting that the court grant her immediate and exclusive possession of the marital home, pending resolution of the estate dispute. That means you would need to vacate within 30 days. This is my house. Actually, Mr. Carter, it's not. Not anymore. Under Oregon law, the marital home passes to the surviving spouse. Mrs. Carter has every right to request that non-family members, including you, be removed from the premises. Tara spoke from the doorway, her voice cold. You started this fight. Don't act surprised when I fight back. I scanned the documents quickly, my legal training kicking in. Morrison's filings were thorough, aggressive, and strategically timed. The motion to dismiss argued the alleged contract between the parties was a private joke between consenting adults and has no bearing on the validity of their 3-year marriage. Mrs. Tara Carter genuinely loved Martin Carter, cohabitated with him, fulfilled all marital obligations, and is entitled to full spousal inheritance rights. The petitioner's claims are motivated by grief-induced paranoia and a desire to disinherit his son's chosen spouse. My jaw tightened. Grief-induced paranoia. Morrison continued. We're also filing a motion to have you declared temporarily incompetent to manage the estate. Our psychiatric expert will testify that you're exhibiting signs of complicated grief, delusional thinking, and possible cognitive decline. We believe the court should appoint an independent executor to handle Martin's affairs. I'm a retired attorney with 30 years of practice. I'm not incompetent. The court will decide that. Our expert will evaluate you next week. It's non-negotiable, court order. Morrison tapped the document. It's all in here. Over the following days, Tara's presence in the house became increasingly aggressive. She was no longer pretending to be respectful or cautious. First, she hosted a dinner party. 10 guests, loud music, laughter echoing through the halls late into the night. I stayed in my study, door locked, listening to strangers drink and celebrate in my son's home. Second, she changed locks. I discovered this when I tried to enter Martin's old bedroom and found my key no longer worked. When I confronted her, she shrugged. I need privacy. This is my space now. She'd also changed the lock on Martin's former office, the room where Martin kept his personal files. I had no access. Third, she brought more of Bradley's belongings into the house. Bradley's clothes hung in the master bedroom closet. His toiletries filled the bathroom. His car parked in the driveway, the spot where Martin used to park. One morning, I found them in the kitchen, making breakfast together. Bradley saw me and didn't even try to hide his smirk. "Morning, Virgil. Want some coffee? Oh, wait, maybe you should ask permission first. This isn't your kitchen anymore." Tara laughed, actually laughed. But I wasn't passive. While Tara played games, I worked. I documented everything. I set up a small audio recorder in the living room, hidden behind books on a shelf. I captured conversations between Tara and Bradley, discussions about selling the house after the court case, about traveling to Europe with the insurance money, about how the old man won't last long anyway. I photographed the parties, the guests, the disorder. I kept a detailed log, dates, times, activities, evidence of Tara treating the house as her own before the estate was legally settled. I contacted Martin's colleagues, friends, neighbors. Several confirmed they rarely saw Tara and Martin together socially. Others mentioned Tara seemed distant or uninterested at events. One neighbor admitted she saw Tara with another man at the house when Martin was traveling for work. I compiled everything into a binder, more ammunition for the hearing. The court-ordered psychiatric evaluation happened on a Thursday morning. A doctor arrived, middle-aged woman, clipboard, professional detachment. She asked questions. "How are you sleeping? Have you experienced any confusion or memory problems? Do you believe people are conspiring against you?" I answered honestly, carefully. I wasn't delusional. I wasn't paranoid. I was fighting a legal battle with documented evidence. After 90 minutes, the doctor closed her notebook. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I'll submit my report to the court." "And your conclusion?" She paused. "I can't discuss that with you, but I will say you seem remarkably clear-headed for someone in your situation." It wasn't an official endorsement, but it was something. Late one evening, I sat in my study, reviewing case files for the upcoming hearing. My phone rang. David Chen. "Virgil, I've reviewed Morrison's filings. They're aggressive but mostly procedural posturing. The motion to dismiss is weak. They're relying on emotional arguments without substantive legal grounds. The psychiatric evaluation will likely come back in your favor. But the occupancy motion is more concerning. Can they actually evict me? Before the estate is settled? It's unusual, but not impossible. If the judge believes Tara has stronger immediate property rights as the named heir, they might grant temporary occupancy. We'll fight it, but prepare for the possibility." After the call ended, I sat in darkness. The house around me felt hostile. Every sound, footsteps above, voices in the hallway, doors closing, reminded me that I was under siege in my own home. But I'd faced hostile opponents before, in courtrooms, in negotiations, in decades of legal battles. This was just another case, another fight, and I would not lose. The hearing date approached, May 15th, 3 weeks away. I spent those weeks preparing, organizing, rehearsing. I knew what evidence to present, what arguments to make, what questions to anticipate. One night, I found a note slipped under my study door, handwritten, Tara's looping script. "You should give up. You're going to lose, and you're going to look pathetic doing it. Save yourself the embarrassment. Accept that Martin chose me, not you." T. I read it once, then placed it in my evidence binder. Just another document, just another piece of the puzzle. The morning of May 14th arrived. Tomorrow was the hearing. I laid out my suit, organized my files, reviewed my notes one final time. Across the hall, I heard Tara on the phone with Morrison. "Tomorrow, right? And then we'll finally get rid of him?" I closed my study door. Tomorrow. Let the real battle begin. Sleep didn't come the night before the hearing. I lay in bed, listening to the house settle, running through my arguments, anticipating Morrison's objections. By dawn, I was already dressed, my evidence folders organized in my briefcase. I left the house before Tara woke. I wanted to arrive at the courthouse early, settle my nerves, prepare my mind. This wasn't just a hearing. This was the first real test of everything I'd built. Multnomah County Circuit Court loomed in downtown Portland. Stone facade, high ceilings, the weight of institutional authority in every corridor. Courtroom 4B on the third floor. Wood-paneled walls, the judge's bench elevated, rows of seats for observers, a podium for each party. I arrived 45 minutes early. I sat on a bench outside the courtroom, reviewing my notes. The hallway gradually filled with lawyers, plaintiffs, witnesses, all engaged in their own legal battles. At 9:50, David Chen arrived. He sat beside me, set his own briefcase down. Ready? As I'll ever be. Remember, you're representing yourself, but I'm here as advisory counsel. If you need me to step in, just signal. Otherwise, this is your show. I've done this before. Not for yourself, not for your son. This one's personal. Stay focused, stay professional. At 9:55, Tara arrived with her entourage. Morrison, Bradley, and 2 other people I didn't recognize. Likely character witnesses or additional counsel. Tara was dressed conservatively, playing the role of grieving widow. Her expression was composed, confident. She didn't look at me. Neither did Bradley. Morrison nodded curtly. Professional courtesy, nothing more. The bailiff opened the courtroom doors. Carter Estate matter. You may enter. Inside, Judge Patricia Hernandez presided. A woman in her 60s, stern expression, reputation for no-nonsense proceedings. I'd never appeared before her, but I knew her record, fair, thorough, impatient with theatrics. Everyone took their positions. I sat at one table, alone, except for David Chen in the front row behind me, Tara, Morrison, and their team at the opposite table. Judge Hernandez reviewed the files. This is a preliminary hearing regarding the petition to annul the marriage of Martin Carter and Tara Mitchell Carter, posthumously. Mr. Virgil Carter is petitioning. Mrs. Tara Carter is respondent. Mr. Carter, you're representing yourself. Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Chen is serving as advisory counsel. Correct. Very well. Mr. Carter, present your case. I stood, approached the podium. 30 years of courtroom experience flooded back. The stance, the tone, the rhythm. Your Honor, I'm petitioning to annul the marriage between my son, Martin Carter, and the respondent, Tara Mitchell, on the grounds that the marriage was fraudulent from its inception. I have substantial evidence demonstrating that this marriage was not entered into with genuine marital intent, but rather as a financial transaction with predetermined terms. I presented the first exhibit, the marriage contract. I handed copies to the judge and to Morrison. This document, signed by both parties and notarized on July 15, 2022, explicitly outlines the terms of their marriage as a 3-year arrangement. Ms. Mitchell agreed to marry my son for an upfront payment of $50,000 and the promise of substantial financial compensation at the conclusion of 3 years. Morrison stood. Objection, Your Honor. That document was a joke between the parties. You'll have your turn, Mr. Morrison. Judge Hernandez studied the contract. Continue, Mr. Carter. I presented the second exhibit, bank records showing the $50,000 transfer from Martin to Tara, dated 1 week before their wedding. This payment corresponds directly to the contract terms. It demonstrates that Ms. Mitchell received financial compensation in exchange for entering into the marriage. Third exhibit, printed text messages between Tara and Bradley discussing the 3-year plan and collecting everything after Martin's death. Fourth exhibit, audio recordings. I played a 2-minute clip, Tara's voice clear and unmistakable. Martin thinks this is real. It's almost sad how desperate he was. But the money is real, and that's all that matters. The courtroom was silent as the recording played. Tara's face remained impassive, but I noticed her hands tighten into fists. When I finished, Morrison stood. Your Honor, these so-called evidence pieces are taken out of context and misrepresented. Yes, my client and Martin had an unconventional beginning to their relationship, but over 3 years, genuine affection developed. They built a life together. They shared a home, a bed, financial responsibilities. The law recognizes that marriages can evolve. The law also recognizes fraudulent marriages, Mr. Morrison. Where's the fraud? Mrs. Carter fulfilled every obligation of a wife for 3 years. She didn't abandon the marriage. She didn't fail to perform her duties. Whatever arrangements they made privately don't negate the public legal reality of their union. Morrison presented his own evidence, photos of Tara and Martin at social events, smiling together, joint bank account statements, a lease agreement they signed together for a vacation rental. These are not the actions of a fraudulent marriage. These are the actions of a couple building a life together. Judge Hernandez looked between both parties. Do either of you have witnesses to present? I stood. Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to call Sarah Nelson to the stand. The courtroom doors opened. Sarah entered, walking steadily to the witness stand. She was sworn in, sat, and met my eyes. I approached. Ms. Nelson, please state your relationship to Martin Carter. I was his partner. We were in a relationship for the past 2 years. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Tara's expression finally cracked. Shock, then fury. Morrison stood. Objection! This witness is not credible. She's clearly biased. Mr. Morrison, I'll determine credibility. Sit down. Judge Hernandez looked at Sarah. Continue. Sarah spoke clearly, calmly. Martin and I met 2 years ago. He told me from the beginning about his marriage to Tara and about the contract they had signed. He was planning to divorce her as soon as the 3-year term ended because he knew the marriage was never real. Did Martin ever express his true feelings about the marriage? Yes, he said he regretted it. He said he'd been lonely and desperate, and that signing that contract was the biggest mistake of his life. He loved me. He was going to leave Tara and build a real life with me. I presented another document, the unsigned draft will, where Martin leaves everything to Sarah. Martin prepared this will, but never signed it because he died 3 weeks before he planned to file for divorce. This document demonstrates his true intentions and his belief that his marriage to Tara was illegitimate. Morrison cross-examined Sarah aggressively. Ms. Nelson, you claim you and Martin were in a relationship. Was this relationship physical? Yes. So you were having an affair with a married man. He didn't consider himself truly married. But legally he was. You knew he was married, and you pursued a relationship anyway. Doesn't that suggest you're willing to bend the truth to get what you want? Sarah's voice remained steady. I'm not here to get anything. I have no claim to Martin's estate. I'm here to tell the truth about what Martin wanted and how he felt about his marriage to Tara. Morrison pressed. You claim Martin was going to divorce Mrs. Carter. Do you have any proof of this beyond your own testimony? Sarah produced a folder. Yes. Email correspondence between Martin and his attorney, David Chen, discussing divorce proceedings. Martin scheduled a consultation for April 5th, 10 days after his death. David Chen stood from the gallery. Your Honor, I can confirm that Martin Carter did contact me about initiating divorce proceedings. We had a preliminary consultation scheduled. Judge Hernandez made notes. Noted. Morrison delivered his closing. Your Honor, what we have here is a jealous father who cannot accept that his son chose his wife over him. Yes, Martin and Tara had an unconventional start, but marriages are complex. The law doesn't require constant affection or perfect circumstances. It requires commitment, cohabitation, and public recognition, all of which this marriage had, I responded. Your Honor, Oregon law is clear. A marriage entered into with fraudulent intent can be annulled, even posthumously when substantial evidence demonstrates that genuine marital consent was absent. I've provided a notarized contract explicitly outlining financial terms, bank records confirming payment, audio recordings proving the respondent viewed this as a business transaction, and witness testimony confirming my son intended to end this arrangement. This was not a marriage. It was a 3-year contract, and contracts expire. Judge Hernandez sat back, reviewed her notes. The courtroom was silent. Finally, she spoke. This is one of the most unusual cases I've encountered. The evidence presented by the petitioner is substantial and troubling. However, posthumous annulment is an extraordinary remedy requiring extraordinary proof. I need time to review the full record, examine relevant case law, and consider both parties' arguments. I'm ordering a continuance. We'll reconvene on June 15th for my decision. Until then, all estate assets remain frozen. No distributions, no access to accounts, no property transfers. Both parties are to maintain the status quo. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel fell. I gathered my papers slowly. A month. Another month of waiting, of living in tension, of uncertainty. But as I left the courtroom, David Chen caught my arm. That went well, better than expected. Hernandez is taking this seriously. Sarah approached. Did I help? You did perfectly. Outside, Tara and Morrison were conferring in the hallway. Tara's voice carried. We need to find something on him, something to discredit him before June. I heard it, and I understood. The war was far from over. I walked to my car. already planning the next month. More evidence, more preparation, more strategy. June 15th, one more battle, and then, finally, resolution. June arrived with uncertainty hanging over everything. The judge's continuance meant a month of waiting, but I didn't waste that time. If Tara thought the hearing was the end of my strategy, she was mistaken. I sat in my study, laptop open. Early June, 3 weeks before the final decision. I was researching Bradley Lawrence, methodically, the way I used to investigate opposing parties. I found what I needed on the Oregon Judicial Department website. Bradley Lawrence, convicted of credit card fraud in 2019, sentenced to 2 years probation. Probation terms: no leaving the state without permission, monthly check-ins with a probation officer. I cross-referenced this with his social media. Photos from Nevada, California, Hawaii, all posted during his probation period, all violations. I picked up my phone, dialed the Portland Police non-emergency line. I'd like to report a probation violation. Within 48 hours, Bradley Lawrence was detained for violating probation terms. The arrest happened on a Wednesday morning. I heard the commotion, police at the front door, Tara shouting, "Bradley Lawrence, we have a warrant for your arrest. Probation violation." Bradley's voice panicked. "This is a mistake. Sir, you need to come with us." I watched from the top of the stairs as police escorted Bradley out in handcuffs. Tara followed to the driveway, still protesting. When she returned inside, her face was flushed, furious. She saw me. "You did this." I reported a probation violation. The rest was up to law enforcement. "You're destroying everything. I'm ensuring justice is served." She stormed to her room. 2 days later, I contacted a professional appraiser. The appraiser arrived, examined Martin's belongings. "Mr. Carter, you mentioned your son had a watch collection?" "Yes, about 15 pieces. He kept them in a display case in his bedroom." "I don't see them." My stomach tightened. I went to Martin's room, now Tara's room, and searched. The display case was gone. The watches were gone. I confronted Tara that evening. "Where are Martin's watches?" She sat in the living room, wine glass in hand, looking exhausted. "What watches?" "His collection, 15 watches, worth approximately $45,000. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You sold them." Her silence was confirmation. "Those watches are estate property. You have no authority to sell them. That's theft." Tara's voice turned defensive. "I needed money. Legal fees are expensive. You forced me into this." "You stole from the estate. Prove it." But proving it was easier than she thought. I contacted high-end watch dealers in Portland, provided descriptions and serial numbers. Within a week, I found the dealer who purchased the collection. They had receipts, signed by Tara Mitchell Carter, dated 2 weeks ago. I filed an additional complaint with the court, unauthorized sale of estate property. Sarah called me mid-June. Her voice was urgent. "Virgil, I found something. Medical records from Martin's doctor." We met at Powell's Books Cafe. Sarah slid a folder across the table. Inside, appointment records from Martin's physician. Martin scheduled an appointment for March 15th. The notes say, "Patient requesting STD screening before informing spouse of divorce plans. States he has been in extramarital relationship for 2 years." I read the notes carefully. March 15th, 3 days before Martin died. He was going to tell her. Yes, he had everything planned, but he never made it to that conversation. This evidence was critical. It proved Martin's intent was immediate. He was taking concrete steps to end the marriage days before his death. As June progressed, Tara unraveled. Without Bradley, without her assumed victory, she became increasingly erratic. I overheard phone calls, Tara arguing with Morrison. "What do you mean settle? I'm not settling. That house is mine." Morrison's voice through the speaker. "The evidence against you is substantial. If you settle now, you can walk away with something. If we lose, you get nothing. I'm not giving up." "Then you're making a mistake." Another call to Bradley at the county jail. "Why didn't you tell me about your probation? You ruined everything." Bradley's response was audible. "I ruined everything? You're the one who got caught. You promised this would be easy money. Instead, I'm in jail and you're about to lose everything. This is your failure, not mine." The call ended abruptly. Tara threw her phone across the room. Late one night, I heard sobbing. I stepped into the hallway. Tara sat on the stairs, head in hands, crying. For a moment, just a moment, I almost felt sympathy. Then I remembered her text. "I'll collect my millions." I remembered her on the beach in Hawaii while Martin's body was being identified. I remembered the recording. Martin thinks this is real. It's almost sad how desperate he was. The sympathy evaporated. I returned to my study without speaking. As June 15th approached, Tara made one last attempt at negotiation. She knocked on my study door. When I opened it, she looked smaller, defeated. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside. She sat, clasped her hands. "Morrison says I should settle. He says I'm going to lose." "You are. If I drop the contest, if I walk away, will you drop the theft charges for the watches?" "No." "Virgil, please. I made mistakes, but I don't deserve to lose everything. You entered into a fraudulent marriage with my son. You mocked him, betrayed him, and celebrated his death. What exactly do you think you deserve?" Tara's face hardened. "Fine, I'll see you in court, and when I win, I'll make sure you regret every moment of this." She left. The door closed. The night before the final hearing, I reviewed everything. The contract, the bank records, the audio files, Sarah's testimony, the medical records, the evidence of stolen property. Tomorrow, Judge Hernandez would make her decision. Tomorrow, this war ended. I thought about Martin, what my son would want, what justice really meant. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. "Good luck tomorrow. Martin would be proud of you." I typed back, "Justice will be served." And I believed it. June 15th arrived with unusual clarity. No clouds, no rain, just sharp summer sunlight. The hearing was scheduled for 10 o'clock. I arrived an hour early, sat on the same bench outside courtroom 4B, where this journey began 3 months ago. David Chen arrived, sat beside me. We didn't speak much. Everything had already been said. At 9:45, Tara arrived, alone. No Bradley, still in jail. Just Tara, wearing a simple black dress, her confidence visibly shattered. She looked thinner, paler, diminished. Morrison arrived at 9:50, conferred quietly with Tara. His expression said enough. This wasn't going well for them. The bailiff called. "All rise." The Honorable Judge Patricia Hernandez presiding. Judge Hernandez entered, took her seat, arranged her papers. The courtroom was silent. She looked up, surveyed both parties. "We're here for my ruling on the petition to annul the marriage of Martin Carter and Tara Mitchell Carter, posthumously. I've spent the past month reviewing all evidence, consulting relevant case law. This is my decision." My heart pounded, but my expression remained calm. Professional, controlled. Oregon law permits posthumous annulment when clear and convincing evidence demonstrates that the marriage was entered into without genuine marital intent, through fraud, or for purposes other than establishing a bona fide marital relationship. She paused, reviewed her notes. "The evidence presented by the petitioner is extraordinary. The notarized contract between Mr. Carter and Ms. Mitchell explicitly outlines financial terms for a 3-year marriage arrangement. Bank records confirm payment was made. Text messages and audio recordings demonstrate that Ms. Mitchell viewed this marriage as a business transaction, not a genuine marital union." Tara's hands gripped the edge of the table. Furthermore, testimony from Sarah Nelson, corroborated by medical records and attorney correspondence, establishes that Martin Carter intended to divorce Ms. Mitchell within days of his death. He had scheduled appointments, consulted legal counsel, and taken concrete steps toward dissolution. Based on the totality of evidence, I find that the marriage between Martin Carter and Tara Mitchell, Carter was fraudulent from its inception. The marriage is hereby annulled, retroactively, as though it never legally existed. I exhaled slowly. Beside me, David Chen's hand briefly touched my shoulder. As a result of this annulment, Ms. Mitchell has no legal standing as Martin Carter's widow, and therefore no spousal inheritance rights. Under Oregon intestate succession laws, the estate passes to the decedent's father, Virgil Edward Carter. Tara's face crumbled. Judge Hernandez continued. Ms. Mitchell is hereby ordered to vacate the property located at 4521 SE Woodstock Boulevard within 30 days. All personal belongings of Martin Carter must be returned to the estate. Additionally, regarding the unauthorized sale of estate property, the watch collection valued at $45,000, Ms. Mitchell is ordered to compensate the estate for the full appraised value. The life insurance policy proceeds of $500,000 shall be redirected to Virgil Carter as the sole beneficiary. The savings and investment accounts totaling $320,000 shall likewise transfer to Mr. Carter. Tara stood abruptly. Your Honor, this isn't— Ms. Mitchell, you will sit down. Morrison pulled her back into her seat. Is there anything else, Mr. Carter? I stood. No, Your Honor, thank you. Mr. Morrison? Morrison's voice was resigned. No, Your Honor. Then this matter is concluded. The annulment is granted. The estate is awarded to Virgil Carter. This court is adjourned. The gavel fell. Outside the courtroom, Sarah was waiting. We won, she said quietly. Justice won. David Chen shook my hand. Congratulations, Virgil. You fought brilliantly. Tara emerged from the courtroom, Morrison beside her. She saw me and stopped. For a moment, our eyes met. I saw rage, defeat, desperation. She walked past without a word, disappeared into the corridor. Morrison lingered. Mr. Carter, I've never seen a posthumous annulment succeed. Your case was exceptional. Thank you. For what it's worth, my client won't be appealing. She can't afford to. I nodded. It was over. September arrived cool and golden. I stood in the driveway, my house again, watching movers carry out the last of Tara's belongings. She'd left Portland 2 weeks ago, returned to wherever she came from. Bradley followed her. I didn't care where they went. They were gone. That was enough. The house felt different now, lighter, as though a weight had been lifted. The life insurance money, the savings accounts, they were mine now. But Martin wanted Sarah to have the house, and I would honor that. I met Sarah at the county registrar's office. The paperwork was simple. Sale of property from Virgil Carter to Sarah Nelson for $1. Symbolic, legal, exactly what Martin would have wanted. Sarah signed, her hand trembling. Are you sure? I'm sure. Martin wanted you to have this house. You should build your life here, the life you and Martin planned. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Thank you. Thank you for loving my son, for fighting for him. That evening, I drove to Multnomah Park Cemetery. Martin's grave was marked by a simple headstone. Martin James Carter, 1990-2025. Beloved son. I stood before it, hands in my pockets, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. I did it, I said quietly. Justice was served. The house goes to Sarah, just like you wanted. The money will do some good. I'm setting up a fund in your name, scholarships for engineering students. The cemetery was silent except for wind moving through trees. Tara's gone. Bradley's gone. They got nothing. I paused. I wish you'd told me the truth while you were alive. I wish you'd let me help you, but I understand why you didn't. You were trying to fix your mistakes on your own. I crouched, touched the headstone. You deserve better. You deserved real love, real partnership. You found that with Sarah. I'm glad you knew what that felt like. My voice broke. I stopped, composed myself. I love you, son. I always did. I always will. I stood, took one last look, then walked back to my car. Driving home, I thought about justice, about revenge, about the difference between the two. Revenge is personal. Justice is principle. I didn't destroy Tara because I hated her. I destroyed her position because she deserved to lose everything she tried to steal. Martin's legacy was secure. Sarah had her home. The truth had been established. That was all that mattered. I parked in the driveway, Sarah's driveway now, and realized I needed to find my own place. The house belonged to Sarah. I'd help her move in, help her settle, and then I'd find something smaller, quieter. But for tonight, I sat in my study one last time, surrounded by Martin's books, Martin's memories, Martin's life. Tomorrow, I'd start the next chapter. Tonight, I allowed myself to simply remember, and to know that, in the end, justice prevailed. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.